check. The time for case building is actually over. Just want to make sure, am I audible? Okay, quite audible. Thank you everyone. This is the last sessions for our debate session. In the government side of the house, we have LDPA/CC team. Applause for them. Side of the house, we have our host, E2DC Undikma. Debating under the motion, this house believes that environmental activists should advocate for nuclear power. We proudly inviting Prime Minister to open the case. First speaker of God.
I do believe all of us realize about how we really needed the electricity itself. Because we know that society activities such as the production of food or goods, communication, technology, health, and etc. Every day we need this electricity to fulfill their activities itself. But also every day we use the electricity. Every day also we contribute the emission itself by the electric activities itself. Because we know that there are a lot of higher demand of production by the society, moreover it from factory, and to running the factory we need also the electricity itself. But ladies and gentlemen, in status quo, the power of electricity mostly come from eco-friendly, such as from the fossil or coal itself. That come with many emission, and also the system of oil is limited now. So that is why, as the government team, why we need the alternative electricity power such as nuclear itself to advocate, because we see that right now our environment is a danger condition. Why? Because it is the come from the waste of the electricity by the fossil or coal and something like that. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, it is very urgent for us to advocate for nuclear power itself. Maybe most of us afraid or the worries about the nuclear power because some country or the government, they are worried about how this nuclear power will be overpowered and impact our environment and the life of people. But we believe, ladies and gentlemen, the risk of the nuclear power can be limited because there are a lot of progressive we do. So that is why you don't need to worry about them. So I will explain more in my argument. In here, how to advocate for nuclear power itself. There are some of mechanisms I will give you in this debate. First, we want to approach the government, especially politicians, about how this nuclear power will be benefit for us as the alternative electricity power. At the same time, we want to socialize and do campaign to give education for the society how it will be safe for human life and our environment. And third, we don't want to ban other alternative power, but we want to make it be more balanced and we can minimize the something that happens, such as the over pollution and emission or over waste of the electricity itself. So in here, our goal to educate society and the government and maximize the emission, and minimize the emission, but we want to maximize the power we have, such as the nuclear itself, because it is benefit for us to see the alternative power of the electricity, because we see that electricity is very new. Let's see in this room to turn off the AC or to turn off the LCD, we need the electric itself. So in here, I have 2 points in this debate. First, why it is urgent for us and why it is justified for environmental activists to do advocate. First, why it is urgent for us? Because we see that the condition of our environment and the other power are affected. Let's see about the when we are using the fossil, it is will be impact our environment because the fossil or coal is contribute more emission and it will create the pollution for our environment. And we see that the condition of our environment about the global warming or the climate change, it is the higher and higher every years because the temperature of our earth is more high right now. So that's why, ladies and gentlemen, why we need to limit the using of the fossil itself, because we want to decrease the number of the emission or the pollution itself. And also the existence of the fossil, it is limited, and because it is the renewable resource, so we don't want to make it will be extinct because we still need it. But behind that, we don't want to ban it because we still need this alternatives to minimize the waste of the nuclear itself. But we want to make society realize and the government realize that we can use nuclear itself because the nuclear power is more environmental friendly and it is the less of the emission and something. So even this opportunity we see that we'll say that there are such as the solar power to be the alternative electricity, but ladies and gentlemen, to create the solar power itself, you need strategic place and strategic place to get the power of the solar itself, and the power from the solar is low. It's not effective to running the huge number of the company in the country or to running the to turn on the light of in this world, ladies and gentlemen. So that is why the most effective alternative power is come from the nuclear itself, because nuclear is easier to get and it is the supply of nuclear is still higher, and I believe that we need to promoting this thing because it is the wonderful solution for us. If you want to reduce the number of emissions, so you need to find the other solutions such as the nuclear itself. It's not time to worry or overthinking about that, because in here we are progressive because the possibility of the wave or the impact of the radioactive can be prevented right now. And the second argument why it is justified for us as the two environmental activists to advocate itself. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that the reason why the government and society worry and overthinking about the nuclear power is because they are lack education about it. So in here, the role of the environmental activists to promoting that, because it is the time for us. We see that the condition of the supply of the electricity from the fossil itself is limited. So so it is the time for the society to move on and to trust the other alternatives such as the nuclear itself. Because we believe if we give the education for the society and the government, it will be easier to conduct apply this such a thing. So we believe as the government, environmental activists who advocate for nuclear power, because the first, we don't want the condition of our earth will be more danger at the end of the day, because we don't want to find other alternative. And the second, we need to educate the society, don't be overthinking or to worry about something that you never have tried. So I'd like to purpose. Thank you.
We thank the speaker for the wonderful speech. Now we would like to invite the leader of opposition to open the case.
My gender pronoun is he or him. If you have any BI, please just raise your hand, or I will just offer you BI if I have time. Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. The government side of the House mainly talked about the nuclear power that can generate the power of electricity can contribute to a cleaner environment. But what they have missed in the debate is that they cannot prove, number one, how can the nuclear power can be accessible or even affordable for the poor people, and how they do not even explain how the developing countries can even build a reactor nuclear where the budget of the national budget is even less for the daily need, for example, or even three, and they do not explain how is it going to be safe to be safe to build or establish a nuclear power in developing country in which the human resources is still low and the facility or even the facility still lack. And that's what we think we need to concern we need to concern in the very first time if we talk about the nuclear power itself, right? In my speech, I'm going to talk about two things, right? Number one, why it is not possible to generate electricity from the nuclear power. But secondly, why we think sticking with the status quo and developing the renewable energy is still the best solution or the only good solution to create a cleaner energy or even safer power for all the people all around the world, right? Before going to my argument, I'd like to characterize the debate into three things. Number one, I'm going to explain the rules of electricity, right? Electricity has contributed 20% of the carbon emission that the world has already from the 51 billion ton of carbon emission, right? What does it mean? It means that there is a more urgent sector like the iron or even the mining that contribute more emission, right? And it is urgent for us to, number one, what is our position? It is urgent for us to reach zero emission by 2050 unless the climate disaster like the forest fire that happened currently in Spain, for example, or even the poor people in the third world country like India will have confusion because of the increasing of the heat degree, or even it is hard for the farmer to I'll take you later. It's hard for the farmer to do the harvest or even plant, right? But what is the interest of the environmental activists, right? We said that our movement aim is to first to the protection or even to the environment to the improvement of the environment, right? It means that we need to politically fight for the living of the environment or even for the society itself. But the opening government do not even explain how this can be affordable for the people in which the very first time we need to fight for their right? But lastly, what is nuclear power? To start, we think that nuclear power is very complicated and expensive, right? We say that nuclear power is very risky and dangerous because it contains of uranium and radioactive, right? It happens in Chernobyl in 1986, for example, where there's a disaster happen, and it cause the people have a cancer, leukemia, or even they need to go home from their territory, and not to mention the accident of Fukushima, for example, or even the three main islands. What is our goal? To stick with the status quo. We said that we want to create a cleaner, safer, and more economically sustainable power for the people. Welcome to my argument. I'll take it.
Yes, indicator the fear of using nuclear power is the cause of lack of knowledge by the developed nation because we still have chance to do the cooperation with international relations. So that's why we propose.
The problem you cannot still answer. So if that's the case you want to run in, you must be willing to prove how can this be affordable for the people because the price of solar is $36 currently, and the price of nuclear power is 186. How can so in your proposal you need to prove how this can be accessible for the poor people. Thank you. And what is possible to generate energy? What is not possible to generate energy by nuclear power? To begin with, we said that nuclear power is a big project, right? That needs a lot of budget. That we need to spend $10 billion on first building the nuclear reactor or even to the maintenance, right? It burdens two things, right? Number one, it will burden the developing countries And secondly, it is not accessible for the poor, right? For example, like I mentioned you that we need to have a maintenance, or even nature, we need the capacity of human resources to maintain, or even to build, or even to keep it, because there are three things that happen when there are two things that happen when it goes to the nuclear power. It is the human error, system error, or even the natural disaster. We said that the country like Indonesia is difficult to build the nuclear power because we are in the ring of fire, right? When there is a volcano, for example, a volcano is blow up, for example, and it will be dangerous for the living of the creature, because there's exactly nuclear power in the territory, right? But secondly, what is going to okay to stick with the status quo and focus on developing the renewable energy, right? To begin with, we said that the rapid deployment of technology is already sophisticated, right? We have to go from the 4.0 to the 5.0 development, meaning that there's a possibility for people to build a better renewable energy that we have right now, right? It means that we have a capacity, we need to build innovation to create a better renewable energy, like the solar or the turbines in Netherlands or Denmark, for example. And why is it possible for all countries to participate? Two reasons. Number one, it is the cheapest and the clean energy from the government. And secondly, it is the most accessible and affordable for all the society, right? But B, how are we going to develop the renewable energy? Number one, the government needs to invest, or even needs to subsidize to any researcher that develop the renewable energy itself, right? And secondly, what should we do wisely to the fossil power? I think that we all agree that fossil power is bad for the environment, right? But stopping people from accessing fossil fuel is not fair at all, because this is the most this is the cheapest energy that can be accessed that can be accessing by the poor people itself, right? Therefore, we were going to let the people to use the fossil power, but we need to have a better policy to limit the use of the nuclear power itself, and we need to invest to the researcher that develop the renewable energy. I close my case.
Thanks, speakers, for that speech. Now continue to the second speech of the government. Yeah.
Start my speech in, so my gender pronoun is he or her. So if you have any ideas, just raise your hand, because I don't want you to disturb my speech. So starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. One thing that the opposition team should understand in this debate, first of all, so the fossil fuels are a type of natural resource that cannot be renewed. So if you want to stay in status quo, which will destroy our environment, so it will make your people die, right? Because you don't have any option. Because these fossil fuels are limited, so you don't have time to stay in status quo. You have the solution, whether you want to be part of the problem, when you stay in status quo, keep using fossil fuels, or you became a part of solution, which are good for us, because we stand for the nuclear power itself, right? Three important rebuttals towards your question. First, they talk about on how this nuclear power is not affordable for the poor. Yes, we said that nuclear power is a bit expensive, but it's worth it, because it's only expensive in the very first beginning, but at the end of the day, it will be cheaper compared to the fossil fuels, because we don't have any resources again about fossil fuels, right? If only opposition circles understand it takes millions of years to produce these fossil fuels, because we don't have time, right? To stay in status quo, we need a better alternative. We need to stand for nuclear power, because it's better. A solution is the only way for us to solve the climate change, because it is the only way for us to achieve zero emission at the end of the day, right? Secondly, we also talk about on how we will, this price is expensive, on how we will achieve this since we are a developing nation. First of all, we have the international cooperation, right? We have the, other communities, because as the, environmental activists, you have a lot of relation, right? You have international relations that will support you. For example, in Ecco Foundation, you have the relationship with Poland, right? So it is the chance for you to use your voices to advocate for the nuclear power. Don't just be silent and do nothing status quo, killing your society, destroying your environment, and have nothing to do for it. And at the end of the day, your country will be destroyed at the end of the day, because we have to learn from the national nation, right? Because we have to learn from the way they solve the problem. Right? There's no way for it to stay in the status quo at the end of the day, right? Thirdly, they're also talking about on how this is hard and this is dangerous for the farmer and stuff. There is some panels. I think obviously don't understand how the nuclear power works, right? Because it's more safety compared to the fossil fuels. I think you better read a lot of things, right? So I think that nuclear power is way safety, right? Compared to the fossil fuels, it's also more expensive, right? At the end of the day, so the government at the end of the day in the developing nation would saving the budget and contribute this budget to the education system, for example, for the healthcare, for example, or for the economy, right? At the end of the day, because we have to learn from the developing nation at the end of the day, right? You have to also understand that I have 3 important points in this debate. First, why then? 3 important points in this debate. First, the benefit of nuclear power for the agriculture, and then secondly, the economic benefit of the nuclear power, not only towards the government, but also towards the society, right? Last but not least, the sustainable energy. First of all, let's talk about the benefit of nuclear power. Do you know that this is actually benefit from the agriculture? This nuclear power at the end of the day will be more cheaper for the farmer. It's good for our plants. It's good for our fruits, for our vegetables, for example. The quality of our plants will be better at the end of the day. The quality of our generation will be also good. The health of our society will also be good at the end of the day, right? Secondly, the economic benefit. Do you know how expensive do you know how expensive the fossil fuels itself, right? So if you prefer nuclear power, at the end of the day it will be more cheaper. The money or the funding from the government will be distributed for the poor people, for example, right? So yes, please.
How can you say that fossil oil is expensive, whereas we know that the price of pertalite now is 10,000, and it is the most accessible things that society can.
I got it. Okay, but the society do demonstration on how expensive is BBM, etc. Let's see how many people do demonstration, right? So that means it's expensive for the society, right? So how can you conclude it's not expensive while you're fighting for the poor people? How can you say that it is not expensive at all, right? So we know that it's not inclusive at all in this debate, right? So the question should be, how do we advocate this nuclear power? First, we are going to approach the politician, for example, the politician who wants to join the election, for example. We have many members, right? We have the voters, right? We have to approach them talking about on how we want this nuclear power will be there in the regulation, for example, on how we want more environmental friendly at the end of the day, right? So we think because of this kind of things, it is possible because they need voters, right? We have more members, for example. We have the power which we have members. We think that by this kind of approachment towards the government, we think we will be successful to obtain this nuclear power at the end of the day, right? Because in the status quo, we have limited fossil energy. As what I said before, we need the alternative that's more sustainable, right? Cheap and more environmental friendly, right? Nuclear power is the solution. Advocating nuclear is the best choices to combat or at least decrease the amount of emission at the end of the day, right? Why then this is urgent, right? Do you even know how nuclear power will be benefit from the health sector? At the end of the day, this nuclear power will help many people, right? Through the use of radioisotopes that can make by with high quality, for example, those good quality radioisotopes can then be used for the treatment of various diagnosis of internal disease or even chronic disease or even cancer. At the end of the day, this nuclear power not only benefit for the government, environment, but also health sectors, economy, agriculture, and also it will be even more sustainable at the end of the day, right? Because as environmental activists, we have we have the responsibility to solve the environmental problem, and we have also the responsibility to make advocate the government for a better or sustainable regulation. So at the end of the day, we at
And for that, speakers, now let's invite the second speech of the oppositions.
I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Clarifications. So we never said that ocean waste is renewable energy, because what we mean by renewable energy is that the solar and the wind power plants. And then we're going to discuss that in my debate. So first things that I'm going to rebut to the governments. Okay, they say that they're talking about how actually we don't understand about nuclear power. I think that they're the one who don't understand about, because in some countries actually we cannot really, it's not really suitable for some countries, because in developing countries we do have such an Indonesia. We are in the fire ring, which is the volcano, and the earthquake is always happening. So which is, it's not going to be shit, it's going to build a nucleus in the first place, right? And then second of all, they're talking about how fuel is really expensive, and then by how people actually doing protests and etc. But the thing is, building a nuclear power, it takes $10 billion. So it is really a big amount of money, and for those developing countries, we cannot really afford that. And first things and then I think that the questions for the opening government, since building the nuclear power is really dangerous. So the question that I would ask to governments that how would you prevent or handle if there are worse, if there are some cases or best scenario that's going to happen in your side of the house because of the system error or the human error that will to cause accidents for the nuclear powers. Just for some examples in the three countries, for example, in the 3 Mile Islands, which is we can say that United States is developing countries, but it's still there was an accident there was an accident, and then there are many people evacuated because of the current have disease of cancers, right? And also what happened in the Chernobyl, right? In Chernobyl in Ukraine, and then there are actually 500 people are evacuated. So how do you explain that? You said that people are actually less knowledge about how nuclear is very safe, but how could you say it's very safe when there are actually 500 people are evacuated in the Ukraine, right? So how do you explain that? And then, okay, there are 3 things that I'm going to discuss in debates. First, what our plan, and second of all, why our mechanism is going to work, and 3, what are the long-term effects to the societies? Okay, why nuclear is a very dangerous purpose. As I have said, that all that happens is all the accident that happens in 1986 and in 2011, which is really shows that it's very dangerous power. And then second of all, why nuclear can be applied in some countries. Okay, let's say we're talking about fundings. When it comes to we want to talk about how to build new powers. Of course, we're going to talk about the funding and stuff, because in some countries they kind of have less funding. So really, we as the environmental really aware about the society too. The country could afford to build that kind of plant power, right? So why our mechanism is going to work? Okay, so why isn't our mechanism is going to work? Well, my first speaker already mentions that we're still going to stay in the status quo, but we going to use renewable, because it's as if just like Indonesia, we have steam power, geothermal, we have also a solar system that we could use all of that. We think that this kind of method is really going to help to the current status quo or the problem that we have right now, which is reducing the emissions of carbons, right? So what are the long-term effects? What are the long-term effects to the, okay, so let's say like yes, maybe we can show that nuclear power, it might be like solve the problem in a very short term period, because like long-term effects that it will cause by the radioactive, that it will cause like create a new problem, right? Because like people will going to like a very suffer because of the radioactive there, and then people will have like many diseases and etc. Right? And then our long-term effects, I think that our long-term effect is better than them, because like our long-term effect, in case of like our best scenario will happen, in case like there might be a system error to the renewables that we talk about solar and everything, it's not going to be very effective. It's not going to be bring a bad effects to the environments. But different in their cases, if there's something might be happening, it will ruin the entire place, or even in certain areas. Just like for example, like in the Fukushima. It is actually that is not safe for the people. With this kind of methods, we believe that we could really reduce the problem. So the problems that we really have is that our interest. Why is it like activists? Because this is actually we're going to like what is it? We're going to concern. We're going to what is it called? We're going to prioritize and like back considerations, not only looking at how we
Not the case.
Great, so I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. At first, I would like to tell you that nuclear is actually more efficient than any other energy source of uranium than we have in coal, gas, or any other fuel. Since 50s, from last century, we had only 2 accidents, and 500 people were the next fuel cycle. In 1917, resource. And we had to remember that we are saving the planet and saving the climate mainly for biodiversity, not just for the planet, not just for the climate, for biodiversity of which part we are. We know from biogeochemistry that before life on Earth appeared, our climate was totally different. There was higher temperature and it was impossible to breathe. But there wasn't life at the time. Right now there is, and that's why we have to fight for that. Thanks to nuclear, we have many new possibilities of international cooperation and development. You said that to build one nuclear power plant, it takes too long. But actually, for example, South Korea can build one nuclear power plant in less than 10 years. That's a possibility of development of collaboration international. Also, we can work on SMRs, which are modular nuclear reactors, but it's still developing technology. But you may say that still less than 10 years is not. Yes, and that's exactly why we should advocate for nuclear power. So we can start today, not after next 10 years of burning coal. We need energy source that will work in the base of energy system, so we can provide electricity for the society. People in hospitals, shops, and prisons, and they need to be safe. One of the duties of climate activists is bringing important, sometimes controversial topics to the public debate, especially that these solutions can solve many problems, and we have to deal with them today from houses and factories. Besides that, besides the energy, it can provide fresh air for us to breathe. And medicine for example, cancer, because lack of the energy. Right now, we have the situation as people on Titanic, and we are fighting with each other. Trying to figure out energy at night when it's not windy. If we won't have energy in the base, for example, nuclear energy. In the base of the energy system, it can work nuclear energy, gas, or coal. You know which one is zero emission and which ones are not. Coal and gas are monthly, not in my backyard. Usually people want to have energy, want to have food, but they do not want to have agriculture or power plants in the close surrounding. But it's a different situation with nuclear power plants, because people can tightly connect with nuclear power plants for their whole life, sometimes even more. Sometimes even for 100 years. The cost of producing electricity is lower. Then even, for example, from the
I thank that speaker for the speech. Now let's invite the opposition with to extend the case of up.
Personally, the first about the nuclear is expensive, but it's worth it. So I didn't get the problem with the first person. It's easier. It's it's cheaper, it's research and the renewable energy or the natural power that we can improve to 25%, but it will be at the end of the day. Even it's expensive, I think it will have less effect on environmental to our environmental. Why? Because we didn't know that if we are talking about the emission of fossil fuels is dirty energy, right? But actually, in opposite side, we will use the fossil fuels, but we will eliminate it. So after the improvement of the research of the renewable energy, we will apply this to firstly to the developed country because we know that they are qualified enough to try this research and then to balance the economy with our proposal. We will apply our purpose into the economy and also the high economic growth of society. So at the end of the day, it will balance. And at the end of the day, the people will also can use fossil fuels, right? But actually, time by time, the people the using of fossil fuels will be decreased. And also here, we will focus on the environmental. Why we support or why we propose the renewable energy? Because we will focus on the environment or the effect that if it can worsen the condition of our environment. It's a challenge as well as the problems that environmental activists think about. As our first speaker said about the affordable, I think the government side cannot explain to us how that the nuclear power will be affordable for all society, right? As the government side cannot answer the question from this person, from the second speaker about how you can build the nuclear power in the developing country like Japan, for example, and Indonesia as the real power in Asia, right? So here, when our proposal is in line to the environmental activities, first, we are talking about the current condition of our environmental. We think that the effect of nuclear building, for example. Okay, imagine that we will build a building, and at the end of the day, do you know that how it will cost for the maintenance of nuclear building? It's so expensive. It's more than not only 10 billions. Okay, it's always for building the nuclear building, but not for the maintenance. Okay, it's stand for 200 years. But you know that it needs maintenance, right? How it can explode? We don't know whenever it can explode. So how can you guarantee that the building will not explode? And then here our proposal looks difficult because we said that we know create a renewable building, for example, we use solar power and use wind power or water power, but actually it's difficult at the first. It gets so many funding, but the effect of our proposal to the environment is better than nuclear power. We don't believe that it will create zero emission. We just need to have research for this, and because we do believe that nuclear power, for example, like this, we do believe that if we build the renewable building or renewable power for the society, and then the government want to create the nuclear completion in 2050, it will be possible. No thanks. We do believe that from every session that nuclear power has possibility to worsen the condition of our environment. As our second speaker said about the three countries that experience the accident about nuclear, the first one about the US, 3 Islands, and also the second one about Chernobyl in Ukraine, and also the last one about the Fukushima, it gets the most of effect of the nuclear itself. So by comparing government mechanism, we think that our mechanism our mechanism has a better possibility to be applied. And also here, we do believe that it's not only about the narrative from society that okay, nuclear is dangerous and so on and so forth, but actually it's totally dangerous, right? We know that nuclear has uranium and also plutonium that trigger the radioactive, and we cannot prevent it. We cannot prevent it. We do believe the operational team knows that nuclear has effect like a bomb. So that's all from me. I'm from the operation team. We are proud to oppose. Thank you.
Where about the case of the all floods in final position reply?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. We think that the close of the debate the main discussion of the debate is whether or not which team is better to provide a proposal to reach the mission of zero emission in 20 and 50. The first speaker of the government argued. I think that this debate should answer 3 questions, right? Number 1, whether or not nuclear power is able to combat the climate disaster. But secondly, is it economically possible for each country to build nuclear power? But third, is it actually possible for the poor people to purchase the energy? The first speaker argued that nuclear power is the only way for us to combat the climate disaster, or even to keep the environment clean by arguing that we can generate electricity from that, and it will be the cleanest energy we can get, right? But the first speaker of the opposition argued that it is impossible for us. Is it impossible for us to establish nuclear power in terms of the economy, for example, or even in terms of the funding of the government? Therefore, in the first class, in terms of affordable and realistic city, I think that the first class should go to the opposition. But second class, is it? In the second class, the second speaker argued that we need to completely leave the fissile fuel because it is dangerous for the living of the environment or even to the climate disaster. But they cannot explain step by step how the poor people will leave the fissile fuel, in which fissile fuel is the most accessible or even affordable. For example, that the Pertalite or even Pertamax is cheaper than the Starbucks you buy, for example. Therefore, the people tend to choose the fissile fuel because it is cheaper. Therefore, they cannot systematically explain how nuclear power is going to be cheaper, or how the government is going to subsidize it to the poor society, right? Therefore, in terms of possibilities, we think that the second class should go to the opposition. And that's all what I can conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank that speaker for the speech. Now let's invite the government reply to conclude the case. Here.
First of all, I want to answer the question that mentioned by the opposition first state, questioning about the budget, how we can fulfill in developing country, but how to create a nuclear power itself. In here, my sales girl already talked you about that. It will open the national relation, it will any collaboration between the developing country and developed country. But now, if you are only stuck in the fossil power, there is no one developed country will help you about that, because it is the one of the alternative by the nuclear power itself. Of course, the developed country will want to do collaboration because it is the mutual benefit for the country. And second, they almost talking about the possibility of the high risk of the nuclear power because the human error and disaster. But ladies and gentlemen, they are forgot about the human error right now when we are stuck in the fossil itself, because we only create more emission and pollution, ladies and gentlemen. So in here, even there is the possibility human error and disaster happen by the exploiting it sometimes will be exploited and something like that. But ladies and gentlemen, there is nuclear agency that controls the nuclear itself, and the possibility of the nuclear will be such as the human error. It's only such as a little bit possibility. I think the opposition so worried or afraid about the possibility that it's not. We don't guarantee it will happen because we never tried it, right? So I believe that it is better for us to take a risk itself, because even then we are never try it, because we need to big movement to save our environment, because the condition of our environment is very dangerous. And they say they want to do the innovation to use the renewable energy and something like that. But how the innovation do you want to do will be more effective? You said about the solar energy, but in very beginning, I'll explain you how the solar energy is effective, because it is the only low energy we can get about the electricity itself, and the solar energy needs the strategic area to get the power. Okay, first I have a question for the opposition. First, how the opposition team to maximize the power of the fossil while in status quo the existence of fossil is limited. And second, how the role of the environmental activities will be maximized if we never want to take big movement and risk by the advocate itself. Because we see that in our status quo, the environmental activists only do campaign and socialization about promoting about public transportation to reduce the number of the pollution, or how to apply the zero waste to maximize plastic. But the most important thing you forget is how it is urgent to promote an alternative solution of electricity power. Because we see even their electric vehicle, we still use unfriendly source of electricity. And the source also limited and will be disappear, such as the fossil and the coal itself, ladies and gentlemen. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, our alternative solution will be more sustainable and be usable for our work. In here, as the government team, I have some point. First, we are already told you about what is the urgent, because the condition of our environment is very dangerous, because the other alternative it's not effective. It's not effective. So that is why we need it, because the number of the fossil fuel is also limited and unreliable research, and it will be extinct at the day if we only use that. So that is why in here we have the mechanism how to combat or how to make our all of the energy balance by using the nuclear power, fossil or solar itself, and it will make us the power of our energy of the electricity. It will be maximized at the end of the day, and it also will make our environment will be more healthy, because we are prevent the number of the emission or the pollution we will product, and we prevent the possibility of the waste will be deposed and something. So because of the reason we went to thank you.
We thank the speaker for concluding the debate for this afternoon debate in the fourth session.